Hello, I'm Gay Taylor from Just Patchwork. We're all having an issue with what we're going to do while we're isolated. Everyone's been wondering about it. So today what I'm going to do is explain to you how I do some of my baby quilts. It's a system called bagging out, and it means that the person who has never ever been to a quilt lesson before, has even seen a quilt, is able to do it. And it's using panels. So the panels are bought and they are one piece of fabric. So if we look at the quilt that's right behind me, the one here that says Baby Safari, it started off life as one whole piece of fabric, which now I have actually finished it and quilted it, so it doesn't have all the outside edges. The outside edges are generally referred to as the selve edges. So I've cut them off. So when we look at what I've got here on my Sew Easy table, I've actually got a book panel. So the book panel is similar to the one that I've finished here. So I finished this the other day. This is what I've been doing in isolation. So it's a baby book now that can be used by the baby. It can then be washed, there's no worries. So how we do it is we'll use a piece of wadding, and the wadding that I use is a cotton wadding. I then cut my panel into pieces. So the pieces are governed by the edge of the panel. If you can see through, there's one that I've got here. There's a red edge to it. So you can see a red edge going right round there. I've allowed an area past that red edge, which was 1/4 of an inch. So it doesn't matter if you haven't got anything to measure it. You can just cut it so you're allowing a space outside that red edge. So I've done that. I've actually placed onto my table my piece of wadding. My piece of wadding is slightly larger than the pieces on the pages. This one is 2 pages together, and I've placed them so that the right sides are together. So if we think about right sides being the inside of our hands, they're both together. The outsides are the other way. So right sides together on top of the wadding. I've then sewn with my sewing machine, and you don't need anything special on your sewing machine to be able to do it, but I've sewn right along the edge of that red line with my sewing machine. But the trick I've done is to allow a little space in between. So we've got a little space there, and that's the means that we're going to turn it inside out once I've actually cut off all my extra wadding. And actually I'm going to cut off across the edges of my corners. I'm going to just clip those off as well. So if I use my lovely sharp scissors to just cut along the wadding, so you can see it's ever so easy. Cut along this one, and I would do right through to the end of that as well. What I'm going to do is just trim off across the edge. So see how now, instead of it being a straight right angle, it's now got a triangle to it. That's going to make it easier that when we turn it inside out, it's going to form a corner. So I've done that one. With this one that I've got here, I've already done that. So that part's been completed. So here's my opening that I actually turned it inside out. I've taken this over to my iron, and I've actually pressed out all my corners. So I used a very clever little thing called the purple thing. I've used that, and then I've just pushed my corners out so they came out. I'm then going to take my needle and thread and just stitch by hand that part closed for there. Once I've done that, I'm actually going to then take the outside edge of this and stitch right along this red part here, right up there, right up there, right up there. That'll then put a border onto that page. I'm going to stitch this one around the black and white edge, and then also around the edge, the orange edge, which is what I've done for this one. So this is the front page. So you can see to the book there's 3 sections to it, of which there's actually, that works out to be 10 pages to it, a back and a front, and 10 pages. So I've already stitched along the edge, just stitched that close. I've then used my sewing machine to stitch right around the edge. So no special equipment's needed to do it, just a pair of scissors and your sewing machine to stitch some straight lines. So the same thing was done with our panel at the back, with the one I have here all ready for Anzac Day. Because we can't celebrate Anzac Day, I've actually done one so that I'm going to hang this on my front door, and I've bagged it out. So in exactly the same manner as we've done the pages on this, I've bagged it out. So it's there with the beautiful poppy. There's medals, there's everything on it. So it's a great quilt, that one. The baby quilts, so I've got several baby quilts here that I'm doing in the same way. You could then just do some hand quilting onto them to give a little bit of texture to them, or just run around with your sewing machine in some straight lines. It's as easy as ABC. Hopefully that's given you some insight into using panels. There's babies being born still while we're all in isolation, so we're always looking for something to give us a nice present. And thank you very much.